so I had what I call a theme week this week. And so a theme week means that everyone I talk to and everything I look at and everything I experience seems to be the same thing. I hear the same thing from everybody I talk to. That's a theme week. And usually, now I used to just go, well, that's interesting. These days in my life, I go, okay, God, you must be trying to tell me something because I'm sort of dense. And just telling me once doesn't usually get there. I got to hear it 4, 5, 10, 12 times sometimes. Can anyone agree that that may happen for you too? I got to hear something over and over. And so God's been really good sometimes in certain, well, He's always good. But He's been good with me sometimes in telling me what it is that we need to communicate. And one thing I love about this church is our ability to change things up and to not get stuck in just doing it the same way. And many times, with pastors, they'll plan out their sermons. I know some that plan their sermons for like 2 years ahead of time. And I guess in a sense that would be great to know exactly. I could tell you on August 13th, this is what I'm going to preach on. But that's just not good and not in my mind for me in the way that I interact with God, because I want to be open to say, tell me what I need to be able to talk to our congregation about, but also what I need to talk to myself about. Because that's always the thing. Anytime you teach something, you learn more about it. So maybe this is a message for me, but hopefully it will tie in with you. But the other thing is, you might have noticed we switched some things up, like we put some tables and chairs over here instead of chairs. By the way, that's because we don't need to get into a mode where we go, well, that's not the way we do it. That's dangerous, right? We just want to follow what God has to say and look at the Bible. And believe it or not, the Bible doesn't say anything about how we should organize our chairs. So I know you might be surprised by that. But so don't be surprised if you come in and there's like a couch in the front row. So we'll see what happens. So someday, what that means is people will start showing up early to church because they want the premium seats. Someone said to me, we should put stadium or theater seats in. And I went, hey, that would be great. Now in the back of my mind, I'm going, as long as you pay for it, that would be great. But I bet you, if we had a whole section of stadium theater seats, recliners, drink holders, I bet at least 20 or 30 people would get here early, And so that would be good. Maybe we'll implement that on the next daylight savings time. So we'll see what happens. So anyway. Hey, so the theme week then this week. Here was the theme for me this week, or the way that I understood the theme. The theme was this. It's not complex, but it's important. People need people. People need each other. We need each other back. That's the deal. That was the thing for me, that we need each other. Now here's the funny thing. We probably really need each other every week. It's not just this week, but it was this week that it was abundantly clear to me that people really need each other. And those are in all kinds of circumstances. And one of those was, I got permission, at least from Steve, to say this. Hopefully it's okay, Desiree. I talked to him. It's not my fault. All right, so here we go. But one of those examples this week, one of the pieces of the 15 or 20 theme pieces that came together was with one family right here, and that is they had their 6-year-old son was in the hospital for pneumonia. On his way out, being checked out, Desiree ended up with kidney stones, like while they're trying to check him out, right? And then, and at the same time, Steve was at the doctor being diagnosed with pneumonia himself. Now, that's a bad day. That's just all there's to it. Yeah. Excuse me. And so, but that's not the theme. The theme of that, yes, is that we need each other. But what I saw in the background was what was amazing. What was amazing were all these people from church, from Renew, that were coming alongside and saying, you know what? We'll help take care of those kids. We'll take them. Don't worry about it. You go take care of this. We'll bring you dinner, or we'll go get this and take care of that. And we'll come and do all these things. And guess what that was? That means people need one another. And that was just one example of over and over and over again of things that I saw this week of people that needed help with electricity, or people needed help with their kids, or people needed help because they were sick, or people just needed help because they were discouraged and didn't know what next to do in life. And they needed someone to come alongside and say, don't give up. But it doesn't come naturally, I don't think, to seek out that help. And I don't think it comes naturally because somewhere along the line, thank you, somewhere along the line, I'll put that next to my Brussels sprout. Maybe I'll tell you about that later. Maybe not. We'll see. Maybe it just make you wonder. But anyway, so somewhere along the line, we've been told a lie in our society. And the lie is this, that you should be able to handle it all yourself. Especially guys. Can I talk to you for just a moment? We really have that problem. We're told from an early age, buck up, you can get this done by yourself. That rugged individualism is the sign of a strong person, or this idea of self-reliance, or even worse, the power of one. You can do it all. And what happens then is we have this mindset, and it's not just a guy problem, it's everyone, I think, or at least most people, we get in this mindset where we go, I should be able to do this all by myself. What's wrong with me? Or we end up struggling like this, and we go, I'm afraid to let anyone know how messed up my life is. Or I'm embarrassed to invite people in that I need help because I should be able to do it. Or we're all just control freaks. And we want to do it all ourselves. Hi, my name's Spencer. I'm a recovering control freak. I was here at the church this week. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone. And I was doing something else and 4 other things. And he was prodding me along. What are you doing today? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And along the way, he just said, dude, delegate. And I said, I can't. I'm a control freak. I'm sorry. You know, that kind of thing. And why is it? It's because something in us has been bred into us in our society that says you should be able to do it on your own. But the truth is, there is more power in togetherness. There is more power in doing it with someone else. In whatever that is in life, 2 are better than 1. This is true. 2 are better than 1. Whether it's fixing a carburetor, or your own spiritual walk, or running a race, 2 are better than 1. Watch this. two is better than one. So there's this great passage of Scripture that I absolutely love, and it's Ecclesiastes chapter 4. So if you have a shared Bible, one of these, looks like that, you will find Ecclesiastes chapter 4 on page 665. If you don't have a shared Bible and you need to try and find it, find Psalms, which is a big one, kind of in the middle of the Old Testament there. Go over a couple books, Proverbs, you'll find Ecclesiastes there. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Here's what it says. Let's read it together. Page 665, Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Verse 9 through 12. It says, 2 are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. What you see in this passage is this big banner statement that says, 2 are better than 1. And then I think the writer here then is giving 4 reasons as to why that's the case. For me, when I look at it, what I see are 4 signposts that help us understand this is what community really looks like. The idea that says 2 are better than 1, and here's some reasons. And I'll be honest with you and tell you this morning, my goal is to persuade you to believe that's true. Now, I don't know that I can persuade you, but I'm hoping that God can persuade you and help you to believe that that idea is actually true, that 2 is better than 1 in your life and in this church, that 2 is better than 1. And so the first thing then, the first reason that we understand in verse 9 is 2 are better than 1, and here's why, the idea that we can sharpen one another. And so we understand this idea out of verse 9 because it says 2 are better than 1 because there's a good return for your work. That when you have 2 people working together, you get a good return. Here's the deal. In almost anything and everything in life, whether it's gardening or cleaning out a garage or whatever it is, 2 people produce better results than 2 people working together produce better results than 2 people working individually. In other words, if I were to go into my garage, which is a scary situation, but if Jennifer were to go in for an hour and work by herself, and then I came along later and worked by myself for an hour, we would accomplish stuff, but we would accomplish more if we worked together for that same hour. Why? Because we would encourage one another and spur one another along and all those things. In science, the idea of this working together to create a better outcome is called synergism. It's the idea of 1 plus 1 equals 3. Now, if you are a 5th grade up, that means you're not in class. Please don't go to math class tomorrow and go, hey, yesterday my pastor said 1 plus 1 equals 3. There. I knew I got that question right. You know. But the idea is that 1 plus 1 equals 3 because when you pull 2 people together, they produce more results and better results than even the sum total of them working individually. And so we have that idea of 1 plus 1 equals 3, and 2 are better than 1. If we go out and we serve in our community, because we're a church that says we need to get outside the walls of this building and go and make an impact, make a difference, touch people's lives where they are, because most people will never come here. And we do that, and when we go together and you take 150, 175, 200 people out in your community to serve together, amazing things happen because of that synergy that occurs when we're together working side by side to accomplish a goal. Amazing things happen. But it applies to our faith too. And that it applies to our faith in this way, and that idea that says that I can grow on my own as I study, but when I'm together with people, and we're working on this faith together, we will grow even more when we're together. And so Solomon has something to say about it. We get that out of Proverbs 27 and 17. And it says this, as iron sharpens iron, we're to sharpen one another. And so we understand that concept that you can use a piece of iron to sharpen another piece of iron. But the idea and the call from Solomon is that we need to also do that, to sharpen one another. That means purposefulness and sharpening one another. And here's the deal. All of us, at times, need some sharpening. Don't we? Hey, Travis, can you turn that image off? Because I'm getting some feedback in here. All of us need some sharpening. That's the deal. We do. At various times in our lives, we all need to understand who God is better, and sometimes it takes other people to help us with that. Sometimes we need to understand Scripture better, and it helps to have someone to help us with that. Sometimes we just need to understand who we are better, and sometimes it takes someone else to help us with that. And sometimes we're just in error, and we need someone to help us along. Iron sharpens iron. That's what it means. Here's the deal, though. It's delicate work to sharpen iron. You got to be careful of that. Not only does it make it sharp, but we've got to understand that when it comes to human beings, and we're to sharpen one another, like Solomon says, it's delicate work. And so what does it mean? It means in order to do it, it has to be a mutual sharpening. It's not just one direction, but it's us together sharpening one another. That's what it means. In my life, in business, and in ministry, I've had lots of opportunities to mentor people. And I hear the same thing always from people. And they'll go, I feel bad because you invest so much time in me, and I don't give anything back in return. And guess what? That's just not true. When you mentor someone and you invest your life in somebody else, at least in my experience, I get as much out of it, and maybe more than they do. And because it's a mutual sharpening. Just like today, this isn't me just pouring into you. This is for me too. And it encourages me and helps me to grow when I prepare to share something with you. It's a mutual sharpening. But it also has to be done in love and done in relationship if we're going to mutually sharpen one another. If it's not done in love, it doesn't go well. Would you agree? That if you're there to sharpen someone because you just want to make sure they know how stupid they are, that usually doesn't go over well. It takes relationship. And this is a mistake that churches around the world have made for centuries, at least in the modern time, where we are so worried about correcting things that we forget to love people in the process. And I understand it's a delicate balance because there is an urgency to have people know who Christ is and to not travel bad pathways. There's urgency in that, and that's good. But at the same time, it's got to be balanced in this idea of relationship and love so that people will want to know. And when you're on the receiving end of some sharpening, it takes a learning heart, which means that you have to be able to say, I'm willing to believe that I don't actually know everything myself. That is a good step in the right direction. To say, I know I don't know it all. And number two of having a learning heart says, I'm willing to let you teach me. But you have to be invited in. Hopefully like this morning, you have come here because part of it is you've said, I give you permission to teach me. I'm ready to learn. I hope. And that's that learning heart as we sharpen. And so, if we're going to take one step closer to God this year, and that's been part of the charge and part of the thing that I've encouraged everybody here this year is to say, just take one step closer to God this year, no matter where you are. And that means if you are a newbie in your faith, or maybe you have no faith at all, but you're curious about God, you're curious about Christ, or you said, I'm not sure I believe that Jesus is who He says that He is, but there's something about it and I want to be here. My encouragement to you is take one step closer to God this year. And if you've been a Christian all your life, don't say, I've arrived. Instead, say, I want to grow closer to God even still. No matter where you are, grow. And if we're going to do it, guess what? It takes a team effort. Now, I think you can grow on your own. But if we believe this idea that the Ecclesiastes writer is talking about, that two are better than one, that we get a better return on our work, it applies in spiritual things too. Even if you were to take my challenge to read the New Testament this year, that my hope is that everyone here will take that challenge. It's a big challenge, I know, but guess what? If you had a partner to help you along the way to read the New Testament this year, I guarantee you'd go better. Don't you agree? Because there's accountability to doing that. Touching the community, serving and loving in our community takes team effort. And even serving in ministry. And by the way, you don't have to go to seminary to serve in ministry. You just have to want to do something and to change something and to work at something that isn't just you. And when you want to serve other people and help out inside the church or outside, that's ministry. Ministry is just figuring out what God's already doing and then joining Him. That's what ministry is. And when you do it, guess what? It's better when it's a team. Two are better than one. And there's a good return on that investment of time. And so the Ecclesiastes writer says that. That's the first thing we get in verse 9. 2 are better than 1 because we have good return for their labor. And then the second thing that we see there out of the 4, and I'm not going to cover the last 2 today, so no worries there. The second one is to encourage one another. That there is this idea that 2 are better than 1 because we can encourage one another. Encourage one another means to hold one another up. It's to hold them up. Here's the deal. Sooner or later, we will all fail. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think it's true. That doesn't mean we'll all fail in our faith, but in something in life, sooner or later we will all fail or we will all fall. I think that's just part of our human condition of being breakable. I said in first service, I hadn't intended to, but I should say it here too. Here's the thing. When you go through trials in life, there are some that would go, I wish I could not experience pain. And when I have an opportunity, I say, I don't think you really mean that, because without the ability to experience pain, you could never experience joy. And so even in our pains and in our trials and all those things, it means that we're breakable. And that's all. It's not an excuse to go out and sin more. It's not an excuse to say, well, I'm human, so I'll just go and make more mistakes. It's all good. That's not what it is. It just means we are breakable, and it takes team effort to grow through that. But if we're alone in our failures, the results can be devastating. But in relationship, it minimizes our failures. Do you agree? That when you have someone that you are open with and that you can share with, there's something in the Bible that talks about confessing your sins to one another. What a scary thing. But if we really could do that, if we really had someone or a group of someone that we could be so real with and so transparent with that we could say, I am struggling here. It's amazing how it takes away the power of those evil things that go on in our minds or in our actions when someone is there in relationship to help us grow through it. Partnership minimizes failure. Where one is weak, the other can be strong. In my marriage with Jennifer of almost 19 years, that's the case. She's weak in some areas and I'm strong. And I'm weak in other areas where she's strong. And together, that 2 is better than 1. It works. And here's the other thing. When failure does occur, there's someone there to pick you up. Ecclesiastes 4:10 says this then, if either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and doesn't have anyone to help them up. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. And by the way, it's not just about physical falling. Although it could include physical falling, it's much more than that. It's about encouraging someone in their struggles, encouraging someone in life through even good times, to encourage someone to continue to move and grow. And the Bible is full of places that it talks about inspiring one another, caring for one another, encouraging one another, lifting one another up. And so that word encourage is important. The definition of encourage is pretty simple, I think, because it just says to inspire someone to courage. That's what to encourage means, is to inspire you to have courage in the face of all the weirdness that can happen. It's courage mentally and spiritually to be strong, even in the middle of great trials. In Greek, that word encourage. In the New Testament, not the passage in Ecclesiastes, but in the New Testament, when you see that word encourage, the Greek word there means standing alongside someone. That's the first part. You got to be present. To encourage, it's standing along another and giving them appropriate counsel. Guess what? We say stupid things a lot. Especially when people are in crisis. You know, you'll hear people in crisis and someone will say, like for instance, I've had to be around families where children have died. I did a funeral one time for a child. One of the hardest things ever. And I wanted to smack people. They walked up and said to the parents, well, God just needed another angel in heaven. Those are just not good, that's not appropriate counsel. Appropriate counsel is helping people understand, what does God say about this? Encouragement isn't our best wisdom. It's not my best ideas. To truly encourage someone is to stand alongside someone and give them appropriate counsel, which is from God's Word. And so, this church and all churches need encouragers. Not just pastoral staff. You can't just rely on me to make the phone call at the right moment in time. It takes everybody. What if everyone, all 400 or so people that call Renew somewhat home or whatever it is, what if every single one of those people said, I'm going to be an encourager to somebody? Do you think it would make a difference in the life of a church if everyone, in other words, instead of saying, well, that's Spencer's deal, he'll take care of them when they're messed up, or when they're struggling, or when they need a bill paid, or whatever, that's Spencer's job, he'll do that. Instead of that, to say, no, it's my job. I am going to encourage this person. And somehow. And you can encourage people all kinds of different ways. I mean, by talking, you can encourage people. I made a list. Writing, being physically present, sometimes not always talking. By the way, sometimes people in grief, they don't need to hear any words from you. They just need you to be present. In fact, I would make the case that you shouldn't talk most of the time. To be physically present, to touch someone appropriately, to pray for them, to showing hospitality, to giving, to helping, whatever it is. You know what? It's funny. When someone's in crisis mode, to say to them, what can I do? Guess what? In crisis mode, you don't know how to answer that question. Well, I don't know. The reality is, to be present and come alongside means I'm going to look for a way to serve and encourage. I don't have to ask. I'm going to find a way. So what if this church and all churches took that seriously? Because here's the deal. We are surrounded by discouraged people. Do you agree? We're surrounded by discouraged people who are broke, whose health is a mess, job is questionable, the marriages on the fritz, kids are messed up, depression, anger, personal failure, sin, over and over, no matter what it is. We're surrounded by discouraged people, and people are asking, God, are you still there? Are you present? Do you care? And Christ comes along and he says, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden or burdened, and I will give you rest. That is, that God promises something, that when you come to Christ, he will put something in you through his Spirit that will encourage you and strengthen you, even in the trials. But you know what? The other question that people should be asking, not is God still there, but where is the church? Because for whatever reason, God chooses to use us to bring peace and encouragement to people in their trials. It is a team effort between God and the church to help people in their struggles as well. And so I say, let's change that old paradigm that says we are really going to be a people that believe that two are better than one. And we're going to be those encouragers and those that help sharpen one another. We're going to be those people. Next week we'll talk about the last two. We're not going to do that today. But the question now is, why is this important? Why do we take a message like this and help us to understand this idea of sharpening one another and encouraging one another? Why spend that time? Well, here it is. The first thing, there's a couple. One, I want to say is, if you really want to grow in your faith this year, no matter where you are in that, if you really want to take that one step closer to God, it will be easier to do it with someone else. It's easier in a team. It just is. Because the days that you don't want to move forward, that you don't want to grow, or that you're having a hard time praying or reading your word, reading the Bible, or any of those things, to have a partner that can come alongside and say, you can do this today, and I'll help you, means everything. Because two are better than one. But there's a second one, and I got to just be totally transparent and tell you why this is so important to me, and that is, after seeing what I saw this week, and the needs that were out there, the need for one another, here's what it was. Here's the idea. If you want people to be devoted to you, you need to be devoted to other people. And that's not an issue of threat or weirdness or anything. It's just an issue of practicality. If you want people to be devoted to you and encourage you and to visit you when you're in the hospital and bring you a meal and call to check in, laugh with you when you laugh, to cry with you when you cry, to help pay an electricity bill or have compassion on you, not pity, but help have compassion when you're broken, to stand alongside you when you fall down, to encourage you to get up, and when you just need some love from somebody, you want people to be there. Don't you? You want people to come along and take care of those needs. But if you want people to do that, they've got to know who you are. It's just an issue of practicality. Years ago, when I first went to work at the church in Kansas City that I was at before I came here, it wasn't long after I started ministering at that church, and a family came up, the wife of the family came, and she said, you know what, we are leaving because my husband doesn't feel like he has any friends, which, by the way, is a real reason why people leave church. They leave because they don't have relationships, and they leave because they haven't found a way to serve and to be useful. So, understand, we want you to not leave, so find friends and find a way to serve, because it's important. But she said, we got to leave because no one is friends with my husband. My initial reaction was, I didn't know you were married. I had only seen the guy once or twice and wasn't sure they were connected together. And so the issue was, no one was friends with Jeff because no one knew Jeff existed. And so when Jeff had problems, no one called him. Why? Because they didn't know who Jeff was. And if I had sent out an email and went, hey, Jeff's got a problem, people would have gone, who's Jeff? I don't even know Jeff. And so it's an issue of practicality, which says, oh, by the way, that family came back a couple years later. You know what they said? We went to another church and they didn't care either. And my answer was, listen, if Jeff will invest his life in the men's ministry, or if you guys will get involved in a life group and people will know you, I promise you, when Jeff has a problem, people will be there to catch him. It's just practical. It's just how it works. And so here's the thing. This life of ours, physical life and our spiritual life, is a team effort. And this isn't, when I say you've got to be devoted so the others will be devoted to you, that's not a quid pro quo thing. It's not a, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's not what that means. Like, if you just volunteer to take a meal to someone, we put that on a mark. So Spencer will say, hey, that guy, he fed somebody, so he gets some good attention. That is not. It's about togetherness. It's about building relationship with one another so that when your needs come up, people will know, and they will spring into action because they love you. And when someone that you love is broken and needs help, you will spring into action because you love them. 2 is better than 1. So, as your pastor, here's the deal. I yearn for you, and I pray for you to yearn for a relationship with God. I pray that you will seek Him out and that you will continue to learn about Him. I pray that you're here so that you'll let me teach you. Because I want you to fall in love with God. But you can't love what you don't know. And I yearn for you to want to yearn to be here every week so that you can be taught, but also so you can build relationships with one another. So when that trial and failure time comes, there will be people there to catch you. Not just me. And I will be there as much as I can. Because I love you too. But what really makes sense is when you yearn. Not a checklist, I gotta go to church. But it is, I yearn to be with these people. Because these are my people. These are the people that love me. Even considering my craziness. Anybody want to admit to that one? Yes. They love me regardless. And I want to come be with these people. So I yearn that you will yearn to be here every week to build those relationships. That's not a smackdown that says you need to make sure you get to church every Sunday. I've never understood pastors that scream at people. We just need everybody here. Well, I'm preaching to people that came. So, I don't want to pick on you for being here. But the truth is, we'll miss 150 people today that weren't here to build relationship and to hear how important it is to understand two is better than one. I don't want you to miss out. And so I yearn for you to yearn for this time and this place. I yearn for you to want to build relationships, whether it's a game night or movie night, or we serve together, or find a life group to be in where you can do life together with somebody. It's so important. And it's not because I think you have nothing better to do. I don't say this because I think you don't have a life, or any of those, even though I know half of us don't have a life. But, it's not that. I say these things because I yearn for you to grow in your love for God and for one another, because in the times of trial, that's what will get us through. Nothing else. No pop psychology will get you through. No alcohol or drug will get you through. It is a relationship with God and one another that will help us through these times. And because I yearn for the people of this church to care for one another, my hope and prayer is that you will do that. That you will make that commitment to do it. And so where do we go from here? Let me say a bad word, okay? It's the C word, commitment. How about this as a way to take this the next step, and that is make a commitment to truly believing two is better than one. That together you will grow better in relationship with God, and together you will build relationships that will stand the test of time and the test of life. But you've got to be purposeful in building those relationships. Otherwise, you run the risk of having your life fall apart and no one knows. Don't run the risk. Make a commitment to two is better than one. Make a commitment to grow and to sharpen one another. Make a commitment to help and encourage someone so that if nothing else, someone is there for you when you need that encouragement. And there are tons of people that aren't here today that probably aren't here because they are so discouraged. Isn't that ironic? So my prayer for you continually is that you will fall in love with God and you will fall in love with each other. Can we be those people who take that seriously? So my prayer is that today. I'm going to finish up there. And I'm going to let John lead one more song or part of a song. I'm going to go back if you want to pray with me, or if you need to talk, or you want to explore God, or whatever it is. If you just have a question, come talk to me, and I'll come back up, and we'll finish up today. We're almost done. But I want to pray, and my prayer is that God will break through here, and that you'll see how important it is that two are better than one. God, I praise you for what you've done today. It's been an awesome day. To come together and to share together, to figure out who you are better. And I pray and beg you that whatever message came out of my mouth today will be exactly what you wanted. And that people will have heard something, not from me, but from you, that will change their destiny and their children's destiny and their children's destiny. That as we strive to follow and to know you and to fall in love with you, that it will change everything about us. That it will change the way we see life. It will change our priorities. It will change the way we speak and see and hear. And that we will be a people that will encourage one another and strengthen and sharpen one another with reckless abandon. And so God, I pray that you change our hearts. That you'll meet us right where we are and grow us. Help us to seek you with all of us. Because you are good and faithful to show yourself when we seek you. So God, we pray that prayer today. We pray that lives are forever changed because of what you've done in this place. It's in Jesus that we pray.
My heart and my soul control. Consume me from the inside.